everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Dough Doctor. I'm your host and baking expert, Chef Colette. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're watching on the replay, thank you for joining us too. I have a great show planned for us today. We have a ton of questions, which is awesome. And I'm going to demo pasta frollo. Not frollo, that's something else. Pasta frolla. And that's going to be the crust we're going to use next week when we make our torta della nonna. So super exciting. And I'm going to show you how to stabilize whipped cream using instant clear gel. This works so well, it's unbelievable. Remember last week, bakers, we had that question about stabilizing whipped cream, and I said, put a pin in it. Well, I pinned it and I worked on it this week and I have it for you today. You can use this whipped cream to ice a cake. You can use it to decorate cupcakes. I even made roses with it and they're in the freezer setting up. So I'll show you those at the end of the show. Hello everyone, I see you joining the show. Thank you so much. It's great to see you. So let us all know what you're baking this weekend and where are you logging on from? I know we have some of our audience members because I've gotten some messages this week who are far-flung. They are all over the world, so let us know. And if you're in your usual place, that's cool too. I'm in my usual place. I'm right here, coming live from Los Angeles, pretty much Hollywood adjacent, which is why we're always working in flashback. All right, you guys, let's get to those questions because there were some good ones. All right, our baker Yuki asked a really great question. She asked, why do angel food cakes have to cool upside down? Well, just to remind everybody, angel food cakes are those light, ethereal, beautiful cakes that are baked in a tube pan that usually has little feet, and that's a teaser for what I'm going to explain next. And they are mainly, well, they're all egg whites. There's some flour and there's some sugar in them, but their main structure builder is egg whites. So what happens is, even after 40 minutes of baking and a beautiful golden brown crumb structure, crust on the outside, even when your skewer tastes clean, I will learn how to talk, bakers, I promise. Even when your skewer tests clean, that egg foam is not 100% set. So it's in the cooling down that the egg foam properly sets and creates the structure that we're looking for in an angel food cake. Also, it's so light that we have to defy gravity, which is why we cool it upside down. And you're gonna be shocked. You want to cool those angel food cakes for an hour and a half upside down. So we have to exercise our baker's patience and plan accordingly and let them fully cool. So that's the answer for that. Now, the next question comes from ST Traveling Kitchen, and the question was all about coating eclairs. On Wednesday, I posted a photo of some eclairs I was making, or was that yesterday? Sometime this week, I posted eclairs. And oh my goodness, they were so good. Sometimes I think we take choux paste or pâte à choux for granted, and we forget how absolutely easy to make it is and how delicious it is. So the question was about coating eclairs with chocolate. And she said, did I temper the chocolate? Do we add coconut oil? What do we do? None of those things. So I'm going to leave frame for just a second. I used, and I'm back, I used coating chocolate. The same chocolate that we used for our chocolate covered strawberries for Mother's Day. Now this happens to be the brand Bakels, B-A-K-E-L-S, but there are other brands, specifically Ghirardelli and Guittard, which are mainstream supermarket brands, especially Ghirardelli. You can source their chocolate wafers. So all you have to do is melt and dip. Now we talked about that. We talked about coating chocolate on that show. We took a really deep dive, and I think that show date was May 5th. I'd like to think memory is serving me correctly. But here's the thing. This chocolate, and we want to use in France, this is called pâte glacée. And I told you on that show, and I'll remind you again, every great pastry chef in every great pastry kitchen in every corner of the world has a bucket of pâte glacée at the ready, because this stuff is gold. So for our eclairs, there's no need to go through the tempering, no need to try to doctor with coconut oil or shortening regular chocolate. Find coating chocolate or chocolate wafers, they're the same thing. Now we want to use a good quality brand. We want to stay away from like the Wilton, chocolate melts or candy melts. No. They have their place, but we want to use chocolate wafers or a coating chocolate that tastes good. You can always go back to that blog post on the website at bakingwithcolette.com, or you can message me and I can tell you what brands to look for. All right? So great question. It's so quick, so easy. They're so pretty and so glossy, and it actually tastes just fine. The good coating chocolate or chocolate wafers have great flavor. So you don't have to put yourself through that. What a relief. Put your energy into your perfect pâte choux and a lovely, smooth pastry cream. All right, great question. And yeah, as I said, it was a great day. Any day you're making eclairs is a great day. All right, everyone. So then from our baker Cyrus, he asked a great question. He said, because we're getting into summer and you know, we have a lot of county fairs and state fairs, and there's baking competitions within those fairs. And it can be a lot of fun to enter and even more fun to win. So Cyrus's question was, what are judges looking for? Number one, and it's just one rule if that's your jam or you want to enter a contest, follow the rules. Read the rules once, twice, 3 times, and don't get carried away. I did that once. I entered a jam contest in a county fair, made my jars all pretty, topped them with fabric, tied them with ribbon, and it was my iconic, and I mean bakers, iconic, blueberry apple conserve. So good. I would have won. But the rules said no decoration, just a simple label. But my ego, which was huge at the time, I was in my late 20s and the local paper had called me a culinary artist. So I was pretty much out of my mind. I was disqualified. So if that's your jam, if that's what you want to do, and I recommend competing because it always takes us to the next level, just follow the rules. Great question, Cyrus. Thank you. Oh, and one more question from our baker, Cyrus. What are typical size pans for layer cakes? Well, there are 2, either 8-inch or 9-inch. Typically, that's what standard layer cakes are baked. That's the pan size for standard layer cakes. Read your recipes carefully because the amount of batter is very important, because you want, especially if you're torting, making having one layer and cutting it in half, You want to make sure that that layer ends up thick enough. All right, great. And then let's see, was that everything? No, one more question. So our baker Sherry asked about the different tart doughs we've been making, and specifically she asked about one we haven't made yet. But we've touched on the technique that if you wanted to follow a recipe for, wait for it, it's called pâte brisée. In English, that would be broken dough, and Sherry notes that it means broken dough because we use the cut-in method. We chop the fat into the flour, just like when we make our regular pie crust, or scones, or biscuits. Oh, by the way, I think it's National Scone Day, so we should be doing scones, but we're not. We'll put a pin in scones. If you'd like to see a demo with scones, not on National Scone Day, put it in the comments below. All right, so where was I? Back to pâte brisée. So pâte brisée is typically made with flour, butter, egg yolk, and a little bit of milk. The milk is pretty much unique to pâte brisée, and I've got the late Chef Michel Roux's recipe is running in my background in my brain right now. And you want to use pâte brisée for savory tarts, like quiches or any kind of a vegetarian tart that you might be making. It's for use on the savory side, pâte brisée. And then also the other part of the question, her question was, what dough would be good for lemon bars? Oh, the mythical, I think we're always looking, lemon lovers, aren't we always looking for the perfect lemon bar recipe? That's a great question. So which of these crusts would be good for lemon bars? Actually, the sweet tart pastry we made in our first installment of this series would work really well because it's enough of a matrix to hold in the lemon custard. And you can blind bake it because normally what we want to do with our lemon bars, because the filling is so liquidy, if we don't partially bake our crust, we're going to have some doughiness underneath our luscious lemon filling. And that is not usually what we're looking for. So the sweet tart pastry, you could also use pâte sucrée. That would also work. And we know pâte sucrée fully bakes beautifully. Now, I don't want to turn the show into lemon bar show because I could, but I just wanted to say you can make lemon bars, let's say using pâte sucrée, fully bake the crust, and then fill it with a stabilized lemon curd and let it set up in the refrigerator, and then they don't return to the oven like more traditional lemon bars do. So there's a couple ways to make lemon bars. You can partially bake your crust, fill it with a lemon custard, bake it in the oven, and that's an unbaked lemon custard, or fully baked tart shell, and then stabilized lemon curd. And I hear your question, Chef, what are we stabilizing that lemon curd with? Ideally, a little bit of gelatin, or if you're avoiding gelatin, you would use agar. All right, great questions this week. Keep them coming. I was thrilled to have such wonderful questions. Not like we always have good questions, but this week we were on fire. All right, are you ready for demo? Because I'm ready to demo. And I'm going to demo the pasta frolla. And this is pâte sucré's Italian cousin. Pâte sucré's sexy Italian cousin. We can use this raw and we can partially bake it. It's very versatile. It's not my #1 choice for cookies or biscuits. That would be pâte sucrée. But pasta frolla will work. In Italy, it's an all-purpose dough. They use it for tarts, for small cookie bases, for typically in Italy we would call, I talk as if I'm there, no, I'm in LA. It would be, tarts are called crostata. And then it's also a great dough for a galette. And bakers in summertime, when summer fruits are in season, especially stone fruits like peaches, plums, and apricots and cherries, you can whip out a beautiful fruit galette in no time flat. So don't forget that one. Sometimes whole summers have gone by and it's just skipped my mind. And I don't want that to be you, because they go together so beautifully. And that's a demo we can do too as we move into summer. All right, blah, blah, blah. Let's get this pasta frolla rolling. So what we're gonna do, I just wanna make sure you can see everything. Yes, we are in frame, and that's all that matters. Now, I just wanna show you, I'm gonna step out of frame. The torta della nonna for next week's bake-along is, we need enough dough to make to fill our our standard tart pan, and then we also need to make the top. All right, see that? It's frozen, so I can do this. Okay, so that's why we're going to start with 400 grams of flour. All right, because we're basically making a double crust. You're going to have a little left over if you want to make some tartelettes, or you want to roll it out and make some cookie bases. All right, stepping out of frame. All right, cool. So I have unbleached all-purpose flour. We always want to be working for our general baking. We want to use unbleached flour. Then I'm using powdered sugar. And powdered sugar, and the recipe will be on the website. I will publish that either tomorrow or first thing Monday morning. And then we have a little bit of salt. And I'm just going to sift this. Because of the cornstarch and powdered sugar, it tends to clump. I could have done this ahead of time, but it's so much fun to see me make a mess. And the other thing, you guys, let's just review this. Often when we sift, the salt doesn't go through. And it's like, what is happening? Well, if it doesn't go through, just tap it in. And I have a damp towel here to wipe up this little bit of mess I have. Gonna make sure I'm back in frame and you guys can see. So let's recipe recap. We have flour, powdered sugar, and a little bit of salt. Now, the reason for the powdered sugar is to give our pasta frolla some real tenderness, just a melt in the mouth quality. You'll see recipes for pasta frolla out there that use regular sugar, and that's fine, but you know, we all need a little bit of tenderness, so for today, we're going to use powdered sugar in this formula. Leaving frame. Maybe I'll just do it. I promise you I will always come back. Now, unlike pâte sucrée, where our butter was not ice cold, for pasta frolla, we want our butter cut into pieces. And these are like, what would you say, 3/4 inch chunks. And we want it nice and cold. And we're gonna just dump it on top of our dry ingredients. So we have a little bit higher proportion of sugar in this dough. It's about 25% sugar for the flour being 100%. And what that sugar does is it helps stop the gluten forming in our dough so we have that tenderness. All right, so I'm gonna start actually with my bowl scraper, and then I'm gonna get my hot little hands in there, and it's very satisfying. Could you do this in the mixer? Yeah, but typically before we turn to the mixer, it's always a great idea to work by hand so that you can feel it. You gotta feel it, bakers. You have to feel it. And then because the butter's cold, even if you have hot hands, and if you have hot hands, you know it, it's a little bit of insurance. And you can get in here and you can really just squeeze. And I've got to check for questions too, so please, please don't hesitate to drop in more questions, or even just tell us what you're baking. Last week, I think it was Pistol Packing Mama was making sourdough pancakes, and I felt so bad because I saw it, but I got so into what we were talking about, I forgot to mention it. And you want to use a nice big bowl, because as you're squeezing this butter, and we're going to take this butter down until it is basically looks like breadcrumbs. You could grate the butter and freeze it. That was a real thing in the 80s. That got really popular. I saw that on a baking show the other day, and I was like, oh, I remember that old chestnut. I think it was the legendary baker Flo Breaker is her last name. I don't know if Flo is still with us, but she wrote this seminal book called The Art of Perfect Baking. And truly, it was a watershed. It was a seminal work. And I think she was one of the first ones to grate butter. But the problem is, you gotta be careful. If you're gonna grate your butter, you gotta work quick. So I'm more of a cuber. I guess that makes me a cubist. Or a QB, I don't know. QB or not to be, that is the question. So you're gonna get in there and you're gonna massage. I'm really working my thumbs here. And then the only liquid, eggs, whole eggs. And you're gonna whip them up before they're added. So we're gonna break this down again till it looks like breadcrumbs. Now I see from our baker Patty, yes please. So that's either for scones or for like a galette, which is a free form tart, usually fruit, but it doesn't have to be, where the edges are folded over the filling. You've seen those. We see them this time of year because they bake relatively quickly and you don't have to heat up the kitchen, and they're great with more barbecue-y outdoor type dinners. Patty says both. She wants a galette and she wants scones. Well, we'll finish up galettes before we end the series. So you have a couple good galette. You can add galettes to your baking repertoire. And I have a question, bakers. Do you bake with apricots when they're in season? You know how they have a really short season? Do you enjoy baking with fresh apricots? And if you do, what do you make? I'm just curious. I have not suddenly taken on a side hustle with the California Apricot Board, but if they're listening, I am available. I love fresh apricots. They have the most amazing perfume. Oh, they're just really great. I mean, peaches, plums, nectarines, cherries, the other stone fruits, they're great too. But there's just something about apricots. All right, I'm working it. So we're really run the gamut. I don't really want to see chunks of butter, bakers. It's a really great workout. And then I'm going to just break up my eggs. I'm going to make a well in the center. Oh, so our baker Patty, thank you so much for your comment. She's like, she's not tried baking with apricots, but she's enjoyed a delicious apricot tart in France. they really have the corner on apricot tarts. Our baker, Chef Daniel, has been working in Paris this week, and he sent me a gorgeous photo of an apricot tartlet garnished. It was brushed with apricot glaze, and then beautiful, exquisite pieces of pistachio garnished this tart. I mean, you would just sit down, order a coffee, and eat it. Like, who cares how many calories are in it? It was just flat out gorgeous. But for those of you bakers who've been to Paris, you're walking miles and miles looking at everything, so it's not going to matter. That apricot tart is not going to stick. All right. So yes, I like to say apricots just doesn't sound as elegant or posh as apricots. All right, guys. Ooh, you see this texture? You got it? See it? Breadcrumbs. Little teeny bits of butter, but it's okay. So let me clean my workstation because I'm making a mess, but it's so much fun to do this. And then I'm going to add the eggs. And we'll finish up. I want to show you this stabilized whipped cream. I will contradict myself from what I said last week, but there is a science reason behind it. So that's a tease to what's going to come after we get our pasta frolla. I'm going to pull the saran wrap out of the drawer. You're going to need your saran wrap to wrap this up. And if you want to get ahead, I'm going to do a tutorial on how to roll it out. That'll be on the website, and I'll post so you guys know. So if you want to be ready for next week, you can have your dough rolled out and the top already made and in the freezer like I just showed you guys. All right, you can really hypnotize yourself just rubbing that butter into the flour, so try to stop. Okay, so now I have 100 grams of eggs. And that's 2 large eggs, usually in the US. If you are using, it's good to weigh them. It's good to weigh them. And I'm just gonna take a fork and break these up. We always, for something like this, we'd wanna disperse the fat from the egg yolk into the egg white. Make a nice cohesive mixture. Doesn't have to be perfect like egg wash or scrambled eggs. This is fine. So here's the thing with pasta frolla. Pasta frolla, I told you, it's pâte sucré's chic, and I mean chic, Italian cousin, like lives in Milan and wears those amazing shoes, chic. Well, not only is it similar, where it's different is we're gonna build in a little bit of flake, all right? And that's what makes pasta frolla unique, is this little bit of flake. So what I'm doing is I am making a well, and I will get that second camera, I promise you. And I'm gonna dump my eggs in the center. And for those of you who make pasta, you're gonna be like, yeah, Chef, I know. And then what you're gonna do is take your scraper. I hope you all have one of these. If I ever had merch, this would be the first thing, and it would say DoughDr on it. And you guys would always be able to find it. And you're gonna take your scraper, which doesn't say DoughDr, because I haven't gotten that far yet. And you're gonna begin to work the egg into the flour. And I want you to be aggressive. I want you to really push. But here's the thing, and we've been here before. You guys know this drill. Keep it in the bowl. Now there's all sorts of gymnastics that go on in videos and on YouTube of doughs, things like pasta, puff pastry. I remember one particular cordon bleu torturous demo of having to make a sponge for something on the table and doing this motion, and it just made a mess. So, dear God, leave it in the bowl until it is a cohesive mass. That is just some kind of torture when, you know, it can get very discouraging if you're trying to mix on your work surface. Now, you may be super pro and super sophisticated and totally comfortable with that. And if you are, I salute you. But for myself, I really like the control. It gives me confidence. I mean, I have made I always make a mess, more of a mess when I film than when I am alone. But at the same time, it's contained. So look at that. See that, bakers? We have a cohesive mass. I am not going to dump it out onto the table. No, no, no. But I am going to kind of clean my table because I got some stuff going on here. All right. I'm going to just get rid of that. I'm going to just get my hands in there briefly. Don't freak out. I'm going to briefly get in here and I'm going to push, 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 push to the bottom of the bowl. Then I'm going to get my scraper and I'm going to fold. And you all know what I'm doing. I am not only making the dough come together, but I am building in that little characteristic of pasta frolla flake. All right, and look at that. No mess. It's a cohesive mass. And, well, I did have a little bit of particles clinging. And now what you're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to wrap it in plastic wrap and chill it. So it takes about 2/3 of this dough to fill the tart shell, for if you're baking along, for the torta della nonna, and then about 1/3 for the top, and you will have extra for whatever little fun stuff you want to bake up. You know what? I remember, I swear to God, I'm originally from Illinois, and this is an Illinois thing. Pastry scraps, rolled out, brushed with water, cinnamon sugar, throw them in the oven, bake them off, and just a little sweet treat for the kids or for whoever is around. If you have scraps of dough and you're like, oh, I cannot put this in the freezer, just grab the cinnamon sugar and make some snacks. Okay, plastic wrap. I'm just gonna flatten this out and I'm gonna let it chill for a while. And then what I'll do is I will divide it 2/3 and 1/3. I will demo, I'm positive you guys will like to see me demo this next week. So I will demo it. But if you want to get ahead, I'll film a short video on how to do it and have that on the website. Okay? So it's just going in the fridge. Any questions? Any questions? Ooh, yeah. Okay. All right. So now, before we go, I'm going to show you how to stabilize this whipped cream. And whoops, I swear there can never be enough towels or dishcloths when I am live. They don't make enough. All right, back to the topic. So last week we put a pin in the stabilized whipped cream. And let me just slow down and tell you, I know it's backwards, it's Instagram, I have not figured it out. But this is instant clear gel. We used this last spring for our cherry, no, I don't think it was for the show. It was for Craftsy. I did a live demo with cherry hand pies. and we use this instant clear gel. I'll have the link on the website to King Arthur. Amazon also sells it, but Amazon seems to be a little higher in price with the King Arthur products. Maybe to like build in, for Prime, who knows. But anyhow, this works as an amazing stabilizer for heavy cream. As I said in my intro, you can use it for cupcakes as a topping for cupcakes. You could use it for plating and it would hold its shape. I piped flowers, and then also you could use it to mask and decorate a cake. So think of it, bakers, a beautiful sponge, a strawberry filling, and then stabilized sweetened whipped cream on the side, and then a lovely, elegant border. It would just be a dream. You could even do some on the inside and the lovely macerated strawberries on top. Unbelievable, right? So I have, it works out to be, and I know I'm lapsing into this language of percentages, but it works out, I'm just gonna make a small batch. It works out to be 3 grams of the clear gel, and I'm going to start to introduce a show notes. I'm gonna write out the show notes, and this is gonna be the show notes, and it will be in the blog post that follows the episode, so that, and I'll also, for those of you who watch me on YouTube, I'll have this under the episode as well. So what we need to do, so it's 3 grams of the instant clear gel to 28 grams of granulated sugar. I know last week I said confectioner's sugar for heavy cream, but this instant clear gel is modified cornstarch. So when we add these two together, we're gonna basically revert back to powdered sugar. All right, so what I have to do is I have to mix these together. I'm mixing the sugar and the clear gel together. Now, modified cornstarch is not regular cornstarch, so you can't sub that. It's gone through more processing, not in a bad way, and so you can't just grab your regular cornstarch. This will not work. You really want to source instant clear gel, and you'll start using it for your pie fillings. This stuff is amazing. Now I have to grab the heavy cream, which is in the fridge, because bakers, we always keep our cream nice and cold. I'm using the UHT cream that I'm always talking to you guys about from Trader Joe's. One of my faves, because it has a longer shelf life. And then I'm gonna whip this until it looks like Greek yogurt consistency. And what's weird about this, which is gonna just pique your interest, is we're gonna add the sugar and the instant clear gel with the mixer running. Yes, we want that instant clear gel to get into those air cells. All right, so this isn't gonna take long because I'm using the machine. I apologize for the noise. I'll bring the machine into frame. And I'm gonna look for questions. So we're gonna take this to Greek yogurt consistency. No. Okay. No questions in the chat. We're good. All right. This will be our last thing, and I'll let you get back to your kitchens and your weekend baking. I hope you're baking something wonderful. Or if you're not baking, maybe you're just planning and thinking about it, which is totally fine. All right, I'm gonna look for that Greek yogurt consistency or yogurt consistency. I wanna have those air pockets develop. We talked about that last week, so I'm not gonna repeat myself, but we wanna stabilize the foam that we're creating, the air cells that are developing from the mixer. Now, unlike the egg whites in our angel food cake, heavy cream has fat globules. And so they're expanding. That's what makes it so good, all those fat globules. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce the speed and I'm going to just tap it in. And it's like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. That's the rate. You know, when a recipe says rain in the sugar, what are they talking about? Well, it's like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. You could spoon it in, but it just takes too long. And then a little vanilla. We're going to add a little vanilla. And I have it finished. Bakers, look at this. And it has a really beautiful texture. The thing is, you don't want to over-whip it. Look at the roses. Aren't they beautiful? Couldn't you imagine these on top of a cupcake? So as I was saying, we don't want to over-whip it, but at the same time, because we've stabilized it, we can go a little further than usual. So what do I mean? I don't mean to be so mysterious. I am not mysterious at all. That's probably why. Never mind. So this is where we would stop normally without it being stabilized. But we're going to take it just a little bit longer. And yes, you can do this by hand. Bakers, I always hear your questions. I know what you're thinking. Let's add a little bit more vanilla. I couldn't smell it. That's it. So just a little bit further, but it's still, what's the difference? It's not coming out of the bowl, but look at this. It's still lovely and soft, no cracked edges. So I took it, what would you say, bakers? I was on medium-high speed. Lately, I've been avoiding high speed with the mixer because my mixer is starting to shift down at high speed. So medium-high speed, and that was about an extra 30 seconds from where we stopped last week. So this is stabilized whipped cream. You know, and I know like our baker Cyrus, we've had many conversations about icing cakes with whipped cream and then using, there's a product out there called Pastry Pride, which you whip up, which is very stable, excellent in hot weather. But if you're doing a small cake for family and friends that's not going to sit out for hours at a wedding, and you really just want to use some fresh, sweet, heavy cream, then this is the way to go. You will have to order this. I have not seen this on any shelf. Again, it's called Instant Clear Gel. Instant Clear Gel. There is also Clear Gel, but we want it fast. We want it instant. All right, everyone. Well, no questions. Sherry, our baker Sherry is asking how much cream. Well, that was 8 ounces of cream, 227 grams, to 3 grams of clear gel, to 28 grams of granulated sugar, and then 4 grams of vanilla, or you can wave the vanilla bottle over the cream, but it would be 4 grams. And again, I'm going to start show notes because I think that's important for us bakers, so you have a good frame of reference from everything that we've covered. And next week, we'll do the torta della nonna. It was Wednesday's post. I also gave you the ingredient list for last Wednesday's post. I gave you the ingredient list for the pastry cream in case you are baking along. Remember, before we go, torta della nonna is a thin two-crust tart that's filled with pastry cream and garnished with usually either pine nuts or pistachios or both. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Please, questions, bring them. You can message me, and of course, we'll always have a post this week directly asking for them. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your baking, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks, guys. Bye.